Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes life does not change with one big decision. It changes with the small things you repeat every single day. Your habits are the invisible forces shaping your personality, your confidence, your opportunities, and even the way people treat you. Many people wait for a miracle, a lucky moment, or a new chance, but they forget the truth. Your future is built quietly by the choices you make when no one is watching. It is not about perfection, it is about intention. It is about asking yourself every morning, what habit will bring me one step closer to the person I want to become? Small habits shape big futures, because the little actions you repeat every single day slowly begin to rewrite the story of your life. Most people believe that their future will change when something dramatic happens, when they get a new opportunity, when someone finally appreciates their work, or when life suddenly becomes easier. But real change rarely arrives loudly. It begins quietly, in the background, through the small decisions you make when no one is paying attention. The way you wake up, the thoughts you choose to believe, the content you consume, the discipline you practice, the way you speak to yourself, each of these might look ordinary, but together they create the foundation on which your entire future stands. A person becomes strong not by lifting one heavy weight once, but by lifting lighter weights every single day. A person becomes confident not by one big achievement, but by tiny moments of showing up, trying again, and refusing to quit. These are small habits, but they build the kind of future that looks big from the outside, but starts very small on the inside. Most of the time, people underestimate the power of small habits because they don't see instant results. When you change a tiny part of your routine, nothing looks different today, and nothing looks different tomorrow. And because there is no dramatic change in your life immediately, you start believing that these small habits are useless. But this belief is where the real problem begins. The truth is, habits work silently, they work slowly. They work in ways you cannot measure day by day. A single glass of water won't fix your health, but drinking water daily will. One day of waking up early won't change your direction, but waking up early consistently will. One day of reading won't make you wise, but reading regularly will shape your thinking until you become a stronger, clearer, more capable version of yourself. Small habits are like drops of water. One drop looks meaningless, but drops gathered over time can fill oceans, carve stones, and reshape entire landscapes. That is exactly what small habits do to your future. They carve it quietly, patiently, and powerfully. The future is not something that magically appears. It grows out of the soil of your daily routine. If you plant the seeds of laziness, distraction, excuses, negativity, and inconsistency, you will harvest a future full of regret and frustration. But if you plant the seeds of discipline, learning, patience, focus, and self-respect, you will harvest a future that feels stable, peaceful, and full of opportunity. Your habits decide what kind of seeds you are planting. They decide what kind of person you are becoming even before you notice the change yourself. When you take a small positive action, even if it feels minor, you are sending a message to your mind that you are someone who takes responsibility. When you remove a small negative habit, even if no one sees it, you are freeing your future from unnecessary weight that would slow you down. These tiny decisions stack up, and after months of consistency, they turn into identity. You no longer have to force yourself to act differently. You simply become different. In life, it is never the big things you do once that shape your destiny. It is the small things you do daily that guide your path. Even if you feel stuck today, even if nothing looks like it is improving, even if your efforts seem invisible, trust the process of small habits. They are building your future brick by brick, moment by moment, quietly but powerfully, until one day you look back and realize that everything changed because you finally changed the small things. What you repeat becomes who you are, because your daily actions slowly shape your identity, even when you are not aware of it. Every thought you entertain, every reaction you choose, every small behavior you practice, becomes a thread in the fabric of your character. People often separate their actions from their identity, thinking that what they do occasionally defines them. But life doesn't work that way. It is not the one-time effort, the rare moment of discipline, or the occasional spark of motivation that builds you. It is the repeated actions, the ones you do when no one is supervising you, when no one is praising you, and when no one even knows, that quietly rewrite your self-image. If you repeat kindness, patience, consistency, learning, and courage, you become a person who naturally holds these qualities. And if you repeat laziness, anger, excuses, judgment, or self-doubt, those patterns become part of your personality too, not because you chose them consciously, but because repetition gave them a place to live inside you. Every habit you repeat strengthens a belief about yourself. When you wake up early and start your day with intention, you send a message to your mind that you are someone who values time. When you delay tasks and avoid responsibilities, you reinforce the idea that you are someone who runs away from challenges. When you exercise daily, you build the belief that you care for your health. When you skip the things that matter, you strengthen the idea that you are not capable of staying consistent. Your mind watches your actions far more than your words. You can tell yourself 1,000 times that you want to change, but your mind only starts believing it when your actions start repeating it. This is why repetition is powerful. It turns your behaviors into your identity, and once something becomes part of your identity, it becomes natural, automatic, and effortless. The people you admire are not great because of one big moment. They are great because of repeated behavior. A confident person is confident because they repeatedly pushed themselves out of their comfort zone. A disciplined person is disciplined because they repeatedly did the work, even on the days they didn't feel like it. A successful person is successful because they repeated small, boring, unseen actions that slowly built their skills and mindset. Nothing extraordinary was created through occasional effort. Everything extraordinary was created through repeated effort. Even your mindset is shaped by repetition. If you repeatedly think negative thoughts, your mind becomes wired to look for problems. If you repeatedly choose gratitude, your mind becomes wired to look for possibilities. If you repeatedly think you are not enough, your belief becomes a cage. If you repeatedly remind yourself that you are capable, you start walking with a different kind of energy. Your future self is being designed right now through the thoughts and actions you repeat. It's important to understand that repetition does not care whether a habit helps you or hurts you. It will shape you anyway. If you repeat scrolling for hours, that becomes part of your nature. If you repeat giving up quickly, that behavior becomes your default reaction. The good news is that repetition also works for positive change. When you choose a small good habit and repeat it consistently, it grows stronger each day. When you choose a small negative habit and repeat it less, it becomes weaker. Slowly, the things that once controlled you lose their power, and the things you want to become start taking root inside you. Your life is built in the quiet, repetitive choices you make, because what you repeat eventually becomes who you are. Change begins with daily choices, because every day gives you a fresh opportunity to either move closer to the person you want to become or drift further away from your potential. People often wait for the perfect moment to transform their lives, thinking they need a new year, a big event, or some dramatic turning point. But real change doesn't happen through sudden miracles. It happens in the simple, ordinary decisions you make from the moment you open your eyes. The choice to wake up with purpose instead of scrolling your phone, the choice to speak kindly to yourself instead of feeding your doubts, the choice to take one step instead of staying stuck. All of these choices seem small, but they quietly shape your direction. Your daily choices act like a compass, guiding you either toward growth or toward regret. Even when you think a decision is too small to matter, it is quietly shaping your habits, your mindset, and your identity in ways you don't immediately see. People underestimate how powerful a single choice can be. The choice to drink more water today won't change your health instantly, but repeating it daily will. The choice to study or work for 1 hour today won't make you an expert, but repeating that same hour every day will transform your skills. The choice to speak respectfully to someone today won't rebuild your relationships instantly, but the consistency of such choices can heal years of distance. Daily choices compound over time. They grow, they multiply, they create momentum. Even a small change repeated daily becomes a lifestyle. And once it becomes a lifestyle, it becomes your reality. That is why some people seem to experience sudden success. They weren't lucky. They were consistent with their daily choices for months or years before anyone noticed. Their choices were small in the moment, but powerful in the long run. The most important thing to understand is that every choice has a consequence. Every time you choose effort over laziness, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you choose learning over wasting time, you sharpen your mind. Every time you choose peace over drama, you protect your energy. And every time you choose fear or excuses, you weaken your confidence. Your choices are not neutral. They either build you or break you. They either push you forward or pull you back. You might not feel the impact today or tomorrow, but slowly, your choices become your habits, and your habits become your future. A future full of opportunities is the result of daily choices made with courage and consistency. A future full of regret is the result of daily choices made with comfort and avoidance. Daily choices also reveal what you truly value. If you say health matters to you, but you repeatedly choose junk food and inactivity, the truth is that comfort is more important to you than health. If you say success matters to you, but you repeatedly choose distraction over work, then entertainment is more important to you than progress. Your words show your intentions, but your choices show your priorities. This realization can be uncomfortable, but it is also freeing, because the moment you become aware of your choices, you gain the power to change them. You don't need to change your entire life in one day. You just need to start making better choices today. Even one small decision like reading for 10 minutes, organizing your space, planning your tasks, practicing gratitude, or exercising for a few minutes can shift your mindset. That shift becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a pattern. Over time, these patterns build a life you are proud of. Change begins with daily choices, and when you change your choices, you change your direction. Remove habits that limit your potential, because even the strongest dreams cannot grow in a mind filled with patterns that hold you back. Every person carries certain behaviors that seem small or harmless on the surface, but quietly sabotage progress every single day. These limiting habits become chains that keep you stuck in the same routine, the same mindset, and the same level of life. The problem is that most people don't recognize these habits because they are so familiar, so automatic, that they feel normal. You don't notice how procrastination steals your opportunities. You don't see how negative self-talk breaks your confidence. You don't realize how overthinking stops you from taking the first step. These behaviors may look simple, but they have the power to shrink your potential, slow down your growth, and silence your ambition long before life gives you a chance to rise. Removing limiting habits starts with awareness. You cannot change a habit you don't acknowledge. When you begin to notice the patterns that repeat in your life, you start understanding the hidden ways you have been holding yourself back. Maybe you always choose comfort over challenge. Maybe you give up the moment something becomes difficult. Maybe you run to distractions whenever you feel stressed. Maybe you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," so often that tomorrow never arrives. Each of these habits grabs your potential and pulls it down, not in one big moment, but slowly, quietly, consistently. Once you recognize them, you gain the power to replace them. Awareness becomes the first step toward freedom because it opens your eyes to the truth that your potential is not limited by the world. It is limited by the habits you allow. When you start removing negative habits, you create space for positive growth. Imagine trying to fill a cup that is already full of dust. No matter how much clean water you pour, it will stay dirty unless you first empty it. The mind works the same way. You cannot build discipline when your days are filled with excuses. You cannot build confidence when your thoughts are filled with self-doubt. You cannot build peace when your routine is filled with unnecessary drama. The moment you remove even one limiting habit, you create room for clarity, strength, and improvement. You start feeling lighter, faster, and more capable. Your energy levels change, your mindset shifts. You begin to notice that the barriers you thought were outside were actually inside, built by patterns you repeated for years without questioning them. Removing limiting habits is not easy because habits are comfortable. Even bad habits feel safe because you're used to them. They are familiar places your mind returns to when life feels uncertain, but growth and comfort cannot live in the same place. The moment you choose to break a limiting habit, you challenge the part of your brain that wants to stay the same. You will face resistance, you will feel uncomfortable, and sometimes you will want to go back to the old pattern. But this discomfort is a sign that you are changing. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, each time you choose courage over fear, each time you choose effort over excuses, you weaken the hold of your limiting habits. Slowly, the old patterns lose their power, and your potential begins to rise to the surface. Removing limiting habits also strengthens your identity. When you detach from the behaviors that kept you stuck, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop identifying as someone who avoids challenges, and you start seeing yourself as someone who faces them. You stop identifying as someone who quits easily, and you start seeing yourself as someone who persists. You stop identifying as someone controlled by circumstances, and you start seeing yourself as someone who creates their own path. This identity shift is powerful because once you see yourself differently, you act differently, you speak differently, you think differently, and eventually your life becomes different. Your potential is not something you unlock by adding more pressure, more tasks, or more goals. You unlock it by removing the habits that bury your strengths and hide your capabilities. The moment you let go of the patterns that limit you, you create space for the person you're meant to become. Discipline creates the opportunities motivation cannot, because motivation is temporary, emotional, and unpredictable, while discipline is steady, reliable, and powerful. Most people wait for the perfect mood to start working, hoping that one day they will magically feel inspired enough to take massive action. But motivation rises and falls like a wave. Some days you feel unstoppable, and other days you feel completely drained. If you build your life around motivation, your progress becomes inconsistent, unstable, and weak. Discipline, however, does not care about your feelings. It is the ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. It is the quiet force that continues to move you forward on the days when your mind is tired and your heart is heavy. When you depend on discipline instead of motivation, you break the cycle of stopping and starting, and you create the foundation for long-term success. Discipline is powerful because it turns effort into habit. When you commit to showing up every day, even in small ways, your actions become automatic. You don't have to fight with yourself every morning. You don't have to negotiate with your excuses. and you don't have to wait for the perfect emotional state. Discipline trains your mind to follow through, and when your mind learns to follow through, success becomes a byproduct. Every successful person you admire has one common trait: consistency, and consistency is born from discipline, not motivation. Anyone can work hard for one day, but discipline makes you work hard for months or years. Anyone can start with excitement, but discipline helps you finish the journey. That is why discipline creates opportunities, because it builds a version of you that stays committed long enough to reach places where others stop. Discipline also opens doors that motivation cannot, because it teaches you patience. When you are disciplined, you understand that results take time. You become willing to put in work without expecting instant rewards. This mindset protects you from quitting early. When you rely on motivation, you expect quick results, and when they don't come, you lose interest. But when you rely on discipline, you learn to enjoy the process instead of chasing immediate outcomes. You begin to appreciate small steps, small improvements, and small victories. Over time, these small victories add up and create opportunities you once thought were impossible. Patience is a quiet form of strength, and discipline is the system that builds that strength. Another reason discipline creates opportunities is because it builds trust with yourself. When you do what you say you will do, you develop confidence. Not the loud, temporary confidence that comes from motivation, but the deep, silent confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. This self-trust makes you bolder, more focused, and more capable of taking risks. When you trust yourself, you are willing to pursue bigger goals, speak up for yourself, and push beyond your limits. Self-doubt fades because your actions prove your potential. Opportunities naturally come to people who radiate this kind of confidence, because discipline shapes you into someone who is prepared to handle them. Discipline also protects you from distractions. The world is full of noise, notifications, entertainment, drama, habits of avoidance, and endless comfort traps. Motivation can be destroyed by the smallest distraction, but discipline cuts through distractions like a blade. It reminds you of what matters. It keeps your attention on your goals. It teaches you to say no to temporary pleasures so you can say yes to long-term success. This ability to stay focused in a distracted world becomes a powerful advantage. While others waste hours on things that don't move them forward, disciplined people quietly build their skills, improve their craft, and strengthen their future. And eventually, they reach a place where opportunities start coming to them naturally, because the world recognizes consistent effort. Most importantly, discipline shapes your character. It makes you resilient, stable, and strong. Motivation depends on your mood, but discipline creates a mindset that does not break easily. Even when life becomes tough, disciplined people continue moving. They adapt, they adjust, and they keep going. This resilience becomes one of the biggest opportunities in itself, because the person who doesn't quit becomes unstoppable. Build habits that protect your peace and purpose, because without inner stability and clarity, even the greatest ambitions can collapse under pressure. In a world full of noise, comparison, and endless distractions, your mind becomes the battlefield where your future is either defended or destroyed. Many people work hard, dream big, and push themselves daily, but they still feel lost or drained because their habits do not protect their inner world. They wake up and immediately expose their mind to negativity. They allow other people's opinions to shape their decisions, and they let small frustrations steal their energy. When your habits don't guard your peace, everything becomes heavier, and even simple tasks begin to feel impossible. But when you build habits that protect your mental and emotional space, you strengthen the part of you that keeps going even when life becomes challenging. Protecting your peace starts with the habits you choose in your daily routine. Something as small as spending a few minutes in silence, Avoiding unnecessary arguments or limiting your digital consumption can make a powerful difference. When you start your day with intention instead of chaos, your mind becomes clearer. When you avoid people who constantly bring negativity, your heart feels lighter. When you reduce activities that drain you and increase activities that nourish you, your energy becomes more stable. Peace is not something you find by accident. It is something you build through mindful choices. Every habit that supports your mental clarity becomes a shield against confusion, stress, and emotional exhaustion. And when your peace is strong, your decisions become sharper, your reactions become wiser, and your path becomes clearer. Your purpose also needs protection, because purpose can be fragile when you are surrounded by distractions or self-doubt. Many people lose their direction not because they lack talent, but because they allow noise to drown their inner voice. This is why habits matter. A habit like journaling your thoughts, planning your day, tracking your goals, or spending time alone with your ideas keeps your purpose alive. When you give yourself space to breathe, reflect, and realign, your purpose becomes harder to shake. You begin to see your long-term vision more clearly. You understand what truly matters and what is simply noise. Purpose grows stronger when you repeatedly choose habits that support your direction and remove habits that pull you away from it. Building habits to protect your peace and purpose also means setting boundaries. You cannot grow if you allow everyone to access your energy whenever they want. You cannot stay focused if you say yes to every distraction that knocks on your door. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters that allow what is healthy to enter and keep what is harmful outside. A simple boundary, such as limiting unnecessary conversations, reducing gossip, or saying no to commitments that don't align with your goals, can save hours of mental clutter. When you protect your time and energy, you protect your future. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and the habits you build around them decide how others treat you and how you treat yourself. Another important part of protecting your peace and purpose is learning to detach from things you cannot control. Many people waste their emotional energy trying to fix situations or people that are beyond their influence. This creates unnecessary stress and blocks progress. A healthy habit like practicing acceptance, focusing on solutions instead of problems, or reminding yourself to let go of what you cannot change helps your mind stay balanced. When you stop chasing what is not in your hands, you gain more power over what truly is. This mental strength becomes a foundation for steady growth and calm productivity. Finally, habits that protect your peace and purpose help you stay centered even during difficult times. When life becomes overwhelming, people who have built strong internal habits do not collapse as easily. Their mind knows how to return to calm. Their heart knows how to stay steady. Their focus knows how to realign with purpose. Peace gives you stability, and purpose gives you direction. Without peace, you break easily. Without purpose, you wander aimlessly. But when you build habits that guard both, you move through life with clarity, strength, and confidence. Your future starts with the habits you choose today, because the actions you repeat in the present silently build the path you will walk tomorrow. Many people dream of a better life, a bigger opportunity, a stronger version of themselves, but they forget that the future is not created by dreams alone. It is created by daily behavior. Every morning gives you two choices. Continue with the habits that keep you stuck, or begin practicing the habits that pull you forward. Some habits bring you closer to your goals, while others drag you further away. This is why your future is not a mystery waiting to be discovered. It is a structure being built by the choices you make right now. The food you eat, the content you consume, the discipline you practice, the people you interact with, the thoughts you believe, all of these shape your direction long before you see results. Most people think their future will change when something big happens, like a new job, a lucky break, or a sudden opportunity. But opportunities only benefit you when you are prepared for them, and preparation comes from habits. If you build the habit of learning every day, future knowledge becomes your strength. If you build the habit of taking care of your health, future challenges become easier to face. If you build the habit of working on your goals consistently, future success becomes more predictable. But if you build habits of delay, excuses, emotional reactions, and inconsistency, your future becomes unstable and filled with regret. The habits you practice today are quietly training you for the life you will live later. This is why even the smallest habit, if repeated daily, can change everything over time. Your habits also shape your mindset, and your mindset shapes your future decisions. When you choose habits that strengthen your clarity, like organizing your thoughts, planning your tasks, reducing distractions, you build a mind that can think clearly under pressure. When you choose habits that strengthen your confidence, like keeping promises to yourself, taking action even when you feel uncertain, speaking kindly to yourself, you build a mind that believes you are capable. When you choose habits that strengthen your discipline, like working even when it's uncomfortable, avoiding shortcuts, practicing patience, you build a mind that does not break easily. A strong mind creates a strong future, and a strong mind is built through small habits that seem ordinary in the moment, but extraordinary in their long-term impact. Even your relationships and environment are influenced by your habits. If you choose the habit of surrounding yourself with positive, focused, and disciplined people, your future becomes brighter because your environment lifts you instead of pulling you down. If you choose the habit of setting boundaries, your future becomes peaceful because you stop allowing unnecessary drama into your life. If you choose the habit of communicating with honesty and respect, your future relationships become healthier and more stable. These habits create invisible systems that protect your growth and help you stay aligned with your inner direction. Your future is shaped not just by what you do, but by what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you stay consistent with. The most powerful thing to understand is that the future does not change instantly. It changes gradually through small shifts in your daily behavior. Of 5. It habit today may look meaningless, but when repeated for months or years, it becomes the foundation of a new identity. The person you become in the future is already being formed through the choices you make today. If you take small steps with intention, those steps eventually lead you to places you once